It's going, Chris. How has the last couple of months from you been, both recovering from knee stuff and just kind of decompressing from what I'm sure was a unique baseball season?
Unique is a very good word for what we just went through. For me personally, I think it's just been a lot of um, trying to figure out what was going on physically, trying to find answers, trying to find out what I could do to get back to 100% physically, being ready to start the next season injury free and not worrying about anything. And I've done a lot of rehab here, not too far from where I live, and a lot of um, just physical therapy as far as my left knee and hip and ankle are concerned, just my whole left side on my lower half. And really, I think I'm still kind of going through everything that we just went through, and gearing up for maybe having to do something like that again in the next few months. So,
Dan Connolly, you're up. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey, Chris. You say basically every winter, you and Jill sit down and kind of discuss, what the future is going to be like, what you guys are going to do. Have you had those discussions with your family, and are you 100% committed to being, in Sarasota, whenever that opportunity arises?
yeah, I mean, with that, like you said, that's something that we do every off season. Something that we kind of we didn't ever really plan to do this. It was just something that we kind of started doing a few years ago, and we are both 100% fully committed to being in Sarasota, whenever that may be, whether it's in a few months or whenever it is for spring training. And as far as I'm concerned, still being ready to play 162 games, 150, however many games, and ready to be the everyday first baseman. I know that that's changed a little bit in some people's minds, but in my mind, I don't feel like it's really doing me any favors to go into it thinking that I'm anything other than that.
Rich Dubroff, you're up. Go ahead, Rich.
Chris, the last few years have been very disappointing for you. Is baseball still fun for you?
Yeah, it is. It is, and it wasn't at times. I'll be honest with you. There were times when I was really kind of standing back and looking at everything in front of me, thinking, "What the heck am I doing?" But it is, and it really. I think this past season, that was probably the biggest question for me going into it was, am I going to be able to have fun doing this in this environment without any fans, with really no contact with the outside world, with just the guys. And while I did miss having fans at games, and that really took a lot of joy out of it for me, it was still fun to go in there every day and be with the guys, to go through that kind of a weird setup and scenario as far as the season was laid out, to go into the field every day and see those guys and just being around them and being a part of something that's bigger than you. It still is fun for me.
Steve Molesky, you're up. Go ahead, Steve.
Chris, probably been a couple off seasons now when we talked to you, and you felt confident that you could be a productive player again and made changes, whether swing, body, some combination that you think would unlock that for you. Has it gotten harder to stay that upbeat, and what do you think will unlock it for 2021?
It has. And I think that probably the most discouraging thing for me this past season was when we restarted the second spring training and started kind of getting together. I knew physically that I wasn't 100%. I knew that I wasn't even close to where I was when we started the first spring training. But in my mind, I felt like I had to at least give it a shot, given the results that I saw early in the first spring. And so that was probably the most taxing thing, physically, mentally, emotionally, just to kind of wear that. And I think the biggest thing for me this offseason so far has just been to kind of get away from everything. Obviously, I have to get back to 100% health, which I feel like I'm doing. But for me, I really think it's just taking a step back and taking a break. I mean, I've been really grinding, especially during the off seasons the last couple of years. And I think it's just taken a toll on me. And I've talked to several guys who have gone through similar things in their careers. And pretty much everybody's kind of said the same thing. Maybe it's time to just take a step back and take a deep breath, and then, get back after it after the beginning of the year or whenever it is.
Joe Trezza, you're up. Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Hey, Joe.
Just following up on Dan's question, last spring you told us that you guys considered retirement pretty heavily in the off season. Have you considered that this time around? And if not, why is this winter different for you than last winter?
I haven't, and I think the reason why is just because of everything that went on this past year. I don't feel like it was a legitimate shot at a full season for me. I mean, it was obviously not a full season as far as the number of games was concerned, but in some ways it was almost like, more than a full season with everything that I had to do to keep up physically and mentally over the break. I mean, and then going through all those, multiple hour-long calls, trying to get things together with the league so that we could have a season. I mean, it was just, I didn't feel like I really got a fair shake as far as this year is concerned. So that really wasn't on the table going into this off season. I think that really that was something that I needed to address last off season, and something that we sat down and really seriously considered. But I just think that there are too many doors left open for me to walk away.
Nathan Ruiz, you're up next. Go ahead, Nathan.
Hey, Chris, what do you make of the state of the organization as a whole? Obviously, some moves been made this offseason, Alberto, Iglesias, Nunez. Just what do you make of things as they stand with the Orioles?
It's tough to really know what to make of it right now. I think that there's no doubt that we're in a rebuilding phase, and I just personally, I kind of wonder where that rebuild is headed. Are we talking a complete rebuild? Are we talking we're going to try to start things over from scratch and only have younger players that this new regime has drafted, that they've brought in, that they brought up. I think that they're trying to get the most out of the guys that we have now, and sometimes that means you have to lose some of the guys that have been productive for you. But that's the tough thing about being an older player in a situation that I'm in. A lot of times the moves that are made are going to affect the team in a more positive way when you're not on the team. So, I know that Mike and Sig and Piter and those guys have a pretty good idea of what they're trying to accomplish. It just sometimes it doesn't look like you think it would.
Mark Viviano, you're up next. Go ahead, Viv.
Hey, Chris. You're talking about your organization and your personal circumstances. I'm wondering your thoughts on the league, Major League Baseball in general. You see teams laying off people in front offices and stuff, and guys, some good players that are going to be looking for jobs. What do you think about where baseball is right now as a veteran who's kind of enjoyed the riches of it, seeing it going through what could be a tough spot here?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going through a tough time right now. I think a lot of really good people, and not just good people that are really good at their jobs, unfortunately have been laid off or furloughed or let go. And I just think it's a very it's just a very tough time for baseball. I think a lot of people are really searching and trying to find an answer and kind of find out what's going on, what we're trying to accomplish here. But this is probably, in my opinion, definitely in my career, one of the lowest times in the history of the game, just as far as everything that's gone on in the last year and just kind of the way that some teams have handled it. And there's nothing guaranteed for this next year. So, I mean, that's the hard thing to sit back and kind of swallow is after everything that we just went through, everything that we put our families through, everybody in the organization put their lives at risk, so to speak, and really did a great job of, in my opinion, of following protocols, taking these extreme measures to make sure that we were able to get through such a short season safely, that now we're sitting here on the backside of it, maybe looking at, a delayed start, or maybe even something kind of similar to what we just went through. So I think there are just so many unknowns that it's a very frustrating time right now as a player, and I'm sure as a front office executive as well.
Dan Conley with a follow-up. Go ahead, Dan.
Just kind of to follow up that last question by Viv, obviously the elephant in the room is always your contract, what's left on it. And in comparison to, the rest of the players on the team, the fact that they're trying to reduce payroll, et cetera. How do you balance that? And, and obviously can be a lightning rod for criticism with your desire to want to play. And how difficult is that to reconcile, those two kind of almost warring factors?
Well, my desire to play has nothing to do with the amount of money that I'm owed or the amount of money that I'm going to make. I want to play the game because I feel like I still can compete. I enjoy playing the game. I want to play the game not only for myself, but for my teammates, for our fan base, for the people of Baltimore. I still feel like there's something that I have left to give. And to be honest with you, I don't really want my career to end on the note that it's on right now. I don't want it to end the way that things have gone the last few years for me. I think there's more of a story to be told. So as far as my contract is concerned, it is what it is. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not giving up. I'm not throwing in the towel. I understand the club's in a position right now to where they're trying to cut payroll. And I'm the one big lump that they're kind of stuck with, but they knew what they were signing up for when they took the job.